Welcome back once again, everybody, to Conquer the Cave. But hold on, wait. Look at the top, center of the screen. You do that, and where is it? Oh, there we go. That's the right logo. We got it.
There we go.
We're doing it live. We're doing it live today. We're back. I'm Doa. With me is Charmer, and we've got another episode of Conquer the Cave coming at you. RedHuskyEverret defending his throne, or his cave acquisition, I suppose you could say, against Notlayc, which is apparently Clayton backwards, in case you were curious about that. And I'm curious what we're going to see today. RedHuskyEverret playing really well in his last series. What do you think, Charmer? What are you looking forward to with this?
I am just looking forward to see what the players bring as we get ever so closer to, the planetary qualifier season, the store showdown season. I am just kind of excited to see what people are brewing. I think that there are some top tier meta decks that exist. However, there's a lot more diversity, I think, this kind of competitive season when compared to like last store showdown, for example. So with that in mind, there's more room to innovate, and I'm just excited to see what people are playing.
Yeah, it's been fun lately, right? Where a lot of people have been bringing some really unique lists to the show, and I don't think today is going to be any exception as we jump over to see what we're going to encounter here deck list wise. And we can see from RedHuskyEverret, our reigning champion, is going to be bringing Tarkin yellow. So Tarkin Cunning, which, we've seen plenty of Tarkin Cunning lists over the year, I guess, now, and I think they're always like okay. It is fun. This is a more space centric list. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's the greatest list in the game, but I think we could see some entertaining matches out of it.
Oh, absolutely. This is going to be one of those things where I think ultimately it's going to come down to whether your opponent has the answer for whatever your bomb is. The one thing that jumps out to me about this list as I look at the cards, though, is the inclusion of Maul over Vader, considering this is Tarkin and Imperial oriented. And that is, I don't hate it. It's just interesting. But what I was looking to say is that whether it is your lurking tie that you're just trying to make into a monster, or some other like beefy space unit. I'm also noticing that this is running triple Dark Raid. There's a lot of ways that you can push damage with this list, but this is interesting. I'm seeing a lot of things that I kind of like. Admiral Piet, you and I have been talking about that on the podcast recently, and I think that he's a bit underrepresented. We see 2 here in the main deck and a reinforcement walker, so maybe that's how you stabilize. This is neat.
Yeah, and I mean, you've got the ability to give that pirate battle tank and the reinforcement walker ambush with that Piet, like you said. So there's some kind of cool tech in this, and I feel like we're almost going back in time a little bit with it too, because before the Boba Fett space list with the Lurking TIE Phantom got popular, and before the Jango current list with Lurking TIE Phantom became very, very popular, people were experimenting with Tarkin with this, because again, Lurking TIE Phantom is Imperial. You can just buff it with Tarkin. It's really hard to remove. So every turn it just gets a little bit bigger. And people kind of figured out over time that, you can buff that, but it's really not as much about the TIE Phantom, and it's about the disruption you can cause around it, which is just a little bit better. And Boba, before he was restricted, Boba 1 that is, and then now Jango. But this list did really have some legs when it first kind of emerged. So I'm excited to see how this kind of variation of it does. It's pretty exciting. Well, let's take a look at our other list, and from Notlayc, it is Yoda Cunning. So we've got 2 Cunning lists going head to head here, 1 heroism, 1 villainy. This one should be pretty fun. Yoda's got a lot of cool stuff going in Cunning. There's a lot of really good force options, right? Plo Koon is a good aggressive option a little bit later, and you've got a lot of high-end cost stuff as well to capitalize on You're My Only Hope, and also capitalize on the Yoda flip turn. Anything else stand out to you with this list?
Yes, because as a fellow Yoda player who again, I play a Tarkin Town version of this list and I'm in love with it. Endless Legions. We have the combo. Now, this one is lacking a little bit more of the top end. So if you're just listening to this and you're wondering why I would run a Tarkin Town version, the answer is Crate Dragon. Turns out Crate Dragon is outstanding when you're playing it for free, and you can play multiples of them. It's even better if you sneak in an Admiral Piet and then you give those big Crate Dragons ambush to go with their Overwhelm. So it kind of serves as almost like a one-turn finisher when you pull it off. However, this does still include one of my favorite combos that exists just naturally, which is You play your Endless Legions and you get a bunch of free stuff, but you also get redemption. So what redemption allows you to do, especially if you have multiples, is yes, you're down at 5 or less health, but redemption hits the board. You can heal up a ton, and then you can replace it with a second redemption and then heal again. So you can go almost all the way back to full health when you pull the combo off, and that's really important for stabilizing. So I'm really excited to see how this goes.
So just to sort of catch people up with this too, the basic premise is that you've got Endless Legions in your hand, and then you organize things in a way where you can place it on top of your deck with the Yoda ability, and then use You're My Only Hope to bring it out for a bit of a discount. Because otherwise, we can see without that, it would cost 18, because you'd get dinged twice for the double command things. But with You're My Only Hope, it would only cost 13. So you can kind of bide your time, last and then set that on top of your deck to pop off with another You're My Only Hope in your hand. And, can this deck succeed without doing Endless Legions? Yeah, sure. You can kind of play it like a slow, Healy sort of control list, I suppose. But the Endless Legions is really the icing on the cake. I didn't want to mention it because I wanted you to get to talk about it first, because I know you love this version of Yoda. Although, like you said, you do Tarkin Town, but it'll be interesting to see it in Cunning as well. But I'm ready to get into the games. How about you?
Yes, I want to go watch this now.
All right, let's do it. So here we go. And we have our virtual fist pump as we get started. RedHuskyEverret on the right side of your screen with that Tarkin list. And then on the left side of the screen, we have our challenger, Notlayc, playing Yoda Cunning. So 2 Cunning lists. We do see the Piet going down first for RedHuskyEverret. We do see the restored Arc 170 for Notlayc already. As we jump right into it here, there was a little bit of a tech issue, I guess, where one of them wasn't recording initially, and so they had to kind of get stuff started back over again. So we're jumping right into it very rapidly here.
Yeah, and based on the cards on the table, it actually looks like we might be, I was going to say at the start of turn 2, because there's 3 resources down.
Yeah.
I will also give a shout out to our players for getting the space and ground arenas aligned.
Very nicely done.
It's very hard with the camera.
Yeah, as the Yoda comes down here, looks like it's going to be an attack from Piet. 1 damage on the side of Yoda there. And yeah, they did play those first 2 turns pretty quickly, because back in the recording, like I said, one of them forgot to hit record, so they went through and they just recreated their first couple turns. That's why that moved really fast there, in case anyone's curious. Lurking TIE Phantom came down for RedHuskyEverret, and now we're going on to our 4 resource turn.
Yeah, this is going to be really important for Everett to kind of start piling these tokens and these defensive measures on the Lurking TIE, just because Notlayc had the wonderful start of the restored Arc, and that does still have the ability to trade into the Lurking TIE Phantom.
Yeah, very true.
Oh, they have initiative, and they're not taking it. They're just going to perilous position it instead.
Yeah, and it's hard to argue with that, right? Because that is one of the few cards out there that does remove the Lurking TIE Phantom. It is nice to sort of just give it the -2/-2. And that looks like a surprise strike in the hand being used for Piet to run in and trade with Yoda. Interesting. All right, kind of
Let's
a
get
wet
rid of
noodle
some of
fight,
that
but
restore.
yeah, that's right. 2 more damage on RedHuskyEverret's side of things. And, okay, there's something you don't see every day. It's the Incinerator Troopers. So this was one of the cards that came out. I can't remember, was this a starter card?
Yes.
Yeah, it was a starter card for Moff Gideon. I couldn't remember if it was starter, if it was just part of set 2. But this is a card that I feel like I should see it more often than I do, because it's like a little Imperial Han Solo unit from set 1 where it can attack in and do its damage before the defender. But with the 2/2 stat line, it just seems very difficult to make it work in a environment where there's a lot of 2/3s. There's a lot of 3/3s for 2. You just kind of need the card and the buff to really turn it on, and that's a bridge too far for a lot of people.
Yeah, it is one of those things where it only shines when it has help. So you do sometimes see it here with these Tarkin lists.
Yeah.
So this is interesting, because this is telegraphing that you have something that you want to play with your 5 resources, because otherwise you would have liked to have activated your Tarkin and then deploy him, so you get 2 counters. But because Red Husky immediately deployed Tarkin and then started swinging, that tells me something is going to end up costing 5.
Certainly seems that way. So what do you think we're going to have? Oh, never mind. We're going to have
Yep.
the overwhelming barrage. I was going to say that's one of the top targets for 5-cost green events. He's going to buff that Incinerator Trooper again. And, yep, going to use the damage to take out the restored Arc 170. Should be 4 total, so a little bit more damage on Yoda. And he could attack into that later on if he gets a chance and not take damage with that Incinerator Trooper. Or is he just going to go to base? No, you got to clear the Yoda. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
You know, it's interesting because there is an argument to be made about instead just continuing to push some damage to the base there by getting rid of the Yoda. You get rid of the board presence, and that's, you know, nothing to sneeze at. But this is a deck that also kind of wants to draw cards if you're trying to set up the combo. And so when you've already gotten rid of the 2 Yoda units, you still have that Yoda leader that you can activate and start sifting through as well. If you don't accelerate your game clock, you could give yourself, you know, the wrong end of an opportunity to pull the combo off. So I'm not disliking the play by any stretch of the imagination. I am just saying that there is an argument to be made about instead potentially just going face, because the only thing that you really get punished by is that Yoda could trade into Piet and survive, but then you can again just continue to push a bunch of damage. I don't know. It's just it's a fork in the road.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things too where it's when you're looking at the removal options in blue and yellow, for the most part it's single target, right? And so you feel a little bit more tempted, I think, to go wide into these color aspects in particular. I mean, sure, you've got stuff like Evacuate, right, that clears the whole board, but not many people are running that, you know. And so aside from that, really, you know, you feel pretty safe the more units you have in play. So being able to kind of build the board and kind of count on that is maybe part of the plan. But I think on the one hand, there's that. On the other hand, I'm always terrified of the amount of healing that can be done by these types of decks. And there goes Piet taken out by another perilous position. So, you know, with these big Healy kind of decks, it's just not over till it's over, right? There's so much restore in this Yoda list.
Yeah, there is a ton of restore, and there's a restore on the leader as well. But we're going to see Tarkin swing. This Yoda leader activation is now going to again allow you to cycle a card. It's going to go back on top, so clearly they like what they're seeing. And then we get the Incinerator attack as well.
Yep, that's right. So that's another 4 damage on there, up to 9 now on the base of Notlayc. And there's Kanan Jarrus, okay, with the You're My Only Hope, so getting a little bit of a discount on that. And okay, the 6/7 ATST, the classic, way back from set 1, coming out, and I believe that is Overwhelm too, right? I haven't seen that one in a while. It does. Yeah.
So it's just a big 6/7 Overwhelm Imperial, but the reason that that's important is, again, Red Husky running Piet means that when that comes down, if that Piet was still on the board, you could ambush it into something and get the Overwhelm damage. So it kind of becomes the source of a surprise burst finisher.
So here's the interesting conundrum I think that Notlayc finds themselves in right now, is that if Kanan attacks into the Incinerator Trooper, you can kill it, right, and remain with 1 HP left, but then that means you could take up to 5 Overwhelm damage, maybe even 7, right, if Tarkin buffs that ATST. So, you know, you want to clear that, but you're a little bit afraid to attack in because of the Overwhelm and the ATST. That said, the Obi-Wan Kenobi coming down does protect things a little bit. That's going to kind of force the ATST to go into the Obi-Wan. The ATST still does live, but at least you kind of avoid a little bit of that Overwhelm damage.
Yeah, but this Kanan also now gets 2 experience, and you get to draw yet another card. And if you're a combo deck, you like drawing cards. So I do think prior, I still would have liked to have seen the Kanan consider clearing the Incinerator. Yes, you would have taken Overwhelm damage, but otherwise you're probably just going to take that same attack to the face.
It absorbs a lot.
You're going to take it at some point, but now, interesting. Now I was going to say there was an argument to be made about instead you just get rid of the ATST there.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I think he wants to just keep the Kanan alive. I guess it would have lived with 1 HP if it would have traded in now, or you know, tried to go in against the ATST. But yeah, and with going into the Incinerator Trooper instead, you don't have the Obi-Wan down. I guess the ATST can just go face then, and the Incinerator Trooper, honestly, you know, that's fine if you lose that. Whoa, another ATST coming down. All right. Too bad the Piet's out of commission. Otherwise, that would have been devastating here. But, yeah, RedHuskyEverret saying, you know what? I'm just going to keep putting big bodies on the board, make you trade into it, and, hopefully just get some damage through at the end of the day. We're getting in some really interesting trade situations here. And, gigantic, huge, massive 2-1 TIE fighter. Slightly bigger than the token from set 4 that we know exists now. And, there is the redemption. And that is going to just take out one of the ATSTs. Leaves a Tarkin on board.
Yeah, it's
is it non-leader?
because the Tarkin is a non. Yeah, I was gonna say it's non-leader, and so Tarkin's not a legal target there, but
I don't play
the ATST is. It's so funny because I feel like Notlayc is actually hitting the point where, even though this has the potential to run a combo, because not enough pressure was put on early in the game, I think you just win this through traditional control. We've kind of turned the corner, and Yoda's on the board now. You've healed a bunch. You can play pretty much any of the late game options that you want if you draw them. On the other side, we've seen a lot of cards come out of Red Husky's hand and not as much card draw as we've seen on the side of Notlayc. So the resources have got to be getting pretty thin as far as cards in hand to play at this point. I think that Notlayc is going to firmly be in control of this game 1 of the series here in short order.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there, especially because we know there aren't any, Darth Vaders lurking in the RedHuskyEverret list to, maybe have some ambush come in along with playing another unit too. So it looks a little bit difficult as far as the Tarkin side of things, getting back into this one. And we talked about this a little bit earlier too, where that Yoda list, you can win with the Endless Legions, but you can also just win by playing a regular control list. And, when that Yoda comes onto the board, it becomes very, very difficult to remove, even though it does have 6 damage already. What's the plan going to be for RedHuskyEverret here?
The Yoda does have 6 damage, but as you and I have talked about when we've been playtesting together and played the Yoda list, you can play Redemption and choose not to just heal your base, but heal units. And sometimes peeling off of Yoda is the correct play. So we know there's a second Redemption in there somewhere.
Yeah. Opts to just go to base and buff that TIE fighter. I think that's reasonable. You're kind of saying, all right, if you want to clear this, come at me, right? I mean, Tarkin would have been able to clear either of those units anyway. So might as well just do some damage to the base and buff the TIE fighter. And there's Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight. Goodbye, TIE fighter. And good night, Tarkin, because it's going to be very hard to come back. I really don't see a way into it. Even with that reinforcement walker, that's a big unit. But you've got 1 big unit. They've got 3 right now.
Yeah, this, I think, really just comes down to that lack of early pressure, right? Because these big units that are coming down, a lot of times you want them to close the game out. And as I said before, with Piet available, sometimes it's burst damage on the ATST. Again, and as I'm seeing this list playing, I'm kind of understanding now why it was the Maul over the Darth Vader, because again, that's another thing that has ambush and overwhelm. So I think that the goal is, you play some early units and then you kind of snowball and you win on the back of an ambush overwhelm or 2. But there was no early momentum going, right? That restored arc kind of perfectly countered the early Phantom, but even more so, the perilous position on top of that meant that it was, double secure. And so the Tarkin deck just never got that momentum going.
Yeah. And so you can see the damage really kind of swap sides now, where suddenly it's the Tarkin base that's got a lot of tokens on it, and the Yoda base keeps getting less and less and less. It's really working out my my mouse hand for keeping track of life here. But, I wonder, so RedHuskyEverret has the initiative. Maybe, just maybe, something like another overwhelming barrage comes in. Hey, well, there you go. I'm psychic. So this clears a bit. This doesn't solve your problems forever, but it does do 8 damage. And so what does he clear with this? You can kill the Luke, but that leaves a lot of other stuff around. And yeah, I think he's just going to take out the Kanan and the Yoda.
I was going to say it's got to be Kanan, Yoda, and then the rest on Luke.
I think that's the best way to do it.
What you're really trying to do, again, if your whole point is to generate pressure, what you got to do is get as much restore off the board as possible. And so doing it this way meant 2 units that had restore gone and then damage on the 3rd. The problem is now that reinforcement walker has been shut down for the turn, so you can't now trade into the Luke like you wanted. That is, however, the final perilous position. So unless we see like a Razor Crest, no more of those are getting played.
Well, this is exciting. Triple Dark Raid. I wonder what we're going to find here, because we know we've got some other options, right? Another reinforcement walker. There's that pirate battle tank. Okay, there's a TIE Advanced.
Oh,
yeah.
I actually love this.
On the Tarkin, too. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, because by going on the Tarkin, you're making that unit that much harder to kill.
Right.
And that's going to be really important because unless it's a rival's fall, there's just nothing really in the arsenal of this Vigilance Cunning list that deals with it 1-to-1 anymore. Yeah. You either have to get damage on it and then hit it with a takedown. None of your return to hand mechanics that you run in Cunning will work on a leader, obviously. So this is a safe investment on the Tarkin, and I love it. And that's going to go back because, again, it's Triple Dark Raid, so you'll get that benefit a second time when you replay it.
Yeah, that was the old combo, right? As you try to TIE Advanced on a lurking TIE Phantom, you get it back at the end of the turn because you got it with Triple Dark Raid, and then you play it again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. We see it done a little bit differently to buff Tarkin this time, and again, apologies. I'm keeping up with the damage on the bases as best I can, but it's challenging to do this and talk at the same time. I gotta say, Plo Koon comes out. He's got the +3 to go along with the ambush because Coordinate is online. And where's the damage gonna go? You probably just run right into Tarkin, right?
I was gonna say, I feel like you have to get this on Tarkin at this point because there's no other way you're gonna get rid of it. But you're gonna take some damage here from the TIE in the air, and again, that will end up coming back, but that's okay.
Yep. There we go. Ahem. It should come back. There we go. Okay. I was worried for a second. I was
both
sweating
waiting
for a
with bated breath. Like, oh yeah, that's gonna come back.
It should come back now.
Is it?
It did. He got it. He got it back in hand. So everything is right with the world. We don't have judges for this, so we just kind of cross our fingers and hope they see everything.
Exactly.
Yep. So remember that perilous position is still on that reinforcement walker. So it's been debuffed a little bit to a 4/7 here. But Village Protectors is like the last thing you want to see right now. That's just so annoying to get through. That's a big problem.
It's interesting. That is not what you want to see right now. I believe that's
it's another
triple dark raid.
Yep.
Yeah.
In foil.
Foiling was throwing me off there. It looks really pretty.
Oh yeah.
I was just about to say, normally it's not what you want to see. However, if you could get that shield off and you find like your maul or some of your ambush things, then you kind of get that nice ambush overwhelm and you clean it right up. But
yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying, but that's a lot of ifs.
Well,
at this point in the game too.
Honestly, the biggest if is just if you can find it in time, because you're not out of the game, but you're taking a lot of damage, and Notlayc is just continuing to jam units and then slowly get this chip damage in over time. And Red Husky's about to be entering the sub 10 health left on his base, which is the danger zone.
Yep, he's gonna fly right into the danger zone, you might say.
Curious to see what the choice is with the reinforcement walker.
It looks like he just went to the Village Protectors. Oh boy.
Well, yeah, I didn't know if there was going to be the healing trigger or not. But
yeah, I don't think he did it. There's Tarkin clearing the Village Protectors, going to put some tokens onto the reinforcement walker. Mitigate a little bit of that negative stuff from the perilous position here. Obviously, Tarkin takes a little bit more damage, but that is a big beefy Luke Skywalker there.
Yeah. And when
Luke... Okay. Well, that's the end of the game, isn't it? Right? That's enough damage, I think. Was it 5 plus 6? Like, that's 11 damage. I think that's exact lethal, I think.
That's exactly lethal,
yep. All right. Well, that's game number 1. Let's see what goes on in game number 2. See if RedHuskyEverret can come back. And we're back here for game number 2 between RedHuskyEverret and Notlayc. Let me zero out the life totals here on my side of things. And it ended up being the Luke Skywalker with a Jedi lightsaber and a sneaky hotshot blaster as well. So uncivilized for the perfect 11 damage for the perfect lethal to win game number 1. But I wonder if Tarkin gets the space rolling a little bit quicker this time, if we might see something a little bit different. We'll have to find out, because that was a very ground-based game last time from RedHuskyEverret, putting a lot into the Incinerator Trooper that didn't end up panning out super well. And so this deck, being a little bit more oriented around space to begin with, you kind of wonder if we get a little bit more of that rolling, how will things change?
Yeah, as you rightfully pointed out at the start, I think this is intended to be a space heavier list, and
For sure.
we just didn't see anything on the opener, and we know that there are the TIE fighters in the list, and that might not seem like a big deal, but you know, TIE fighters, they come down as a 2/1, but if you're playing them on the turn 1 and you get the Tarkin activation, then it's a vanilla 3/2, which honestly, there's a lot of decks that even today still play things for the equivalent of a vanilla 3/2, because in space that's good enough.
Yeah.
Not having that and then seeing the restored arc on the other side followed by a Yoda, so you know, they had air and ground covered and double restore. It's just a nightmare opener.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I gotta make a quick shout out to the playmats here. Actually, they're both running just. I really like these clean, gamegenic, no game space, you know, graphics on it. It's just the image, and it works out so nicely. The TIE fighter for Tarkin, the X-wing for Yoda.
Yeah,
So, yeah, they got the playmat synergy
and
going
they're
too.
apparently with this orientation fighting a common foe. I would hate to be whoever they're both shooting at.
It must be Finn in that TIE fighter over there, I guess.
Oh yeah, it could be, or Poe in the stolen one.
That's right. Well, it was didn't Finn oh no, Poe piloted the stolen one. I haven't seen the sequels in a long time. Anyway, it's Piet, he's back, and Khalil.
This is not what you wanted to see again as your opener. Piet he's a fine card and I love him, but he's like your last resort turn 1 play.
Yeah.
Typically. A lot of times I like to play him the turn before you want to go off, right? So like in this Tarkin list, ideally, if you could play like a 3-drop and a 2-drop and then flip your Tarkin so that there's so much going on, they kind of forget Piet's there. And then on the following turn, you get your value. I think that's ideal, but starting with him twice is a big oof. And there's only 2 in the list.
As I look at this list too, your turn 1 options are not fantastic. It's like Incinerator Trooper, Snow Trooper Lieutenant, which kind of wants something else to buff like this, and that actually this combo is okay. What I was going with is a lot of this stuff you really need a second unit or card or Tarkin ability to come down to make it good, and so he was able to do that by playing that Snow Trooper Lieutenant second, and I think that's the idea. It's a risky turn 1 strategy, right? And that's going to be a dead Piet, I believe, if he puts it on.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so the buff goes over onto the Snow Trooper Lieutenant. So at least you end up with a 3/3 on the board. That's something. But yeah, the way his early game goes, you really need to play your card, and then you need to have it live to do something to buff it the next turn, is how his deck is kind of constructed.
I was about to say, if I'm being honest, seeing a perilous position go just to clean up a Piet also kind of feels good, right? On the one hand, you don't want to lose any board presence, but if they're going to use one of their best removal things on, at that point, you're 1/2. I think that's kind of a win if you can now slap down a lurking TIE Phantom here and then get a counter on it, right? At 4 resources, this is, I think, what you're hoping for.
Yeah, I agree. I wonder, too, if they're like, well, you know, if I don't use one now, the game might not go, you know, by the time I want to use it, I'm going to be wanting to play bigger stuff. I will have taken more damage, so you might as well just spend the resources on it now. And then go with the Village Protectors. Own the Foresight on that. All right. So, you know, this is a card that was kind of tailor-made for Yoda, basically, but I feel like you didn't see it end up in a ton of Yoda lists. Just to catch people up, as the second Piet come down, Foresight gives +2 health. It says, attached unit gains when the regroup phase starts. Before drawing cards, name a card, and look at the top card of your deck. If it's a named card, you may reveal and draw it. So you can potentially kind of get an extra card draw out of Yoda if you know, because you know what you put down on the top of your deck the previous turn. But do you run it in your Yoda list? I feel like I don't see it in a ton of Yoda lists.
So I currently do not run it, largely because my version of the Yoda list is not super unit heavy. It is, and the units that it does play, at least in the early game, are all things that I either want to use like proactively to get rid of stuff or play defensively. I don't have a lot of things that are really worthy of kind of keeping alive until the late game. So I'm not currently running it. I like that this list is running it because I think it's a great card on something like Village Protectors to extend their value.
Yeah.
Things like that.
I agree. When I saw that, I was like, do I maybe want to run it in Thrawn? Because it's not heroism. It's just vigilance. I kind of want. I still have Thrawn in the back of my mind. I'm talking old Thrawn, not the set 4 Thrawn that just got announced.
I will also say my Yoda list is a bit more all in on the combo, and as a result, I don't typically want to draw the card if I can just filter to find my combo pieces.
Fair enough.
So activating my Yoda leader is kind of the same as if I had drawn the card anyway, because I'm just getting one card deeper in the deck to find the things that matter.
Right. Triple Dark Raid on the side of RedHuskyEverret. What's he going to find? There's a TIE Advanced.
There we go.
And it's just such a great play with this because, again, like we said last game, you get to buff something, it goes back to your hand at the end of the turn, and so then that next turn you have the opportunity to play it again and get that buff a second time. So you really can get a lot out of it. That's going to bring Piet up to 3-6. So getting a bit big. Yeah, so far.
I want to be very clear. So far. And the reason I'm saying that is because we still have potentially an activation of the Tarkin leader and then a deploy. And if they just jam all of this on Piet, it could be a massive unit. And to be honest, it might be worth it to do so just so that it sticks around. I don't hate this play, though. This means that you can trade into the Dawn Interceptors.
Yeah, it does give you 4 damage on that advance. So you'd be trading. You wouldn't get it back to play again, but at least you do remove that Sentinel into space arena. There goes Tarkin.
I was going to say, you deploy the Tarkin, and then after you swing with Tarkin, you put another one on. So it will still survive and then come back. You don't get, you lose +2/+2 of the permanency, but this is still...
No, you're right. Yeah, because it buffs it up to 4 health. Yeah. I wasn't thinking about the second Tarkin token, and there it is. Yeah. Way ahead of things.
Yeah.
And there goes the Village Protectors. And that is kind of an elegant way to deal with the... Concord Dawn Interceptors, actually.
Yeah, they were going to be a thorn in the side of this deck because it wants to be space heavy. So I'm all for cleaning this up.
Yeah, I mean, it is a little bit of a silver lining for the Yoda side of things, where at least Notlayc is like, okay, well, there's 2 XP from Tarkin that are going to just disappear right now. So you have that to sort of console yourself, I suppose. But losing those Concord Dawn Interceptors like that too is not ideal.
Well, your biggest issue right now is that you've got 3 units on the ground, and if you want to play anything down there to contest, we've now hit the 6 resource turn, which means that Pia is turning those ATSTs live and potential other answers. And you still have the Tarkin to deal with as well. So you're happy that the counters are gone, but you also lost a lot of board position in doing so. So the answer is now a Plo Koon, but no coordinate. Ooh.
Right. That's going to be enough to take out that 1 trooper, but that's about it. And so the Piet's still alive. I think the big danger here is, can Piet survive whatever Yoda's going to throw at him with the flip turn, right? If you're able to stock or stack like another Redemption on top of the deck, it's just going to take out the Piet right there. He's got 7 XP on him right now. And, I don't think he's going to have a chance to do another one because I've got a feeling Notlayc is going to have initiative. But you wouldn't know it's on top of your deck yet, I suppose. We'll see what happens here. That's going to be another overwhelming barrage, though. And that should be enough to clear both. Yep, and it will be. It's a big Piet. He's Darth Piet now.
He is, in fact, Darth Piet.
He's beyond military rankings. He's gone all the way to becoming a Force user at this point. He's going to unchoke himself.
Unchoke himself. Right. So with that, we have now 13 damage on Notlayc's base, 2 on Red Huskies.
Oh, yeah, I should probably
it's a bit of a juxtaposition from the first game.
Yeah. A bit. But, we saw something fairly similar in game number 1, where I think it was up to like 9 damage on Notlayc's side, and it ended up swinging back the other way in a big way. But Man, I really want to see this Piet live. I really want to see stuff like, oh no, spare the target. Which I wonder if I wonder if that's a sideboard card. I'm gonna go look right now because that is the type of thing that you would definitely bring in. No, that's main board. Okay,
No,
yeah.
I was gonna say that was in the main board.
Yeah, with heroism, there's really not a reason to run Waylay over that. It's just Waylay with an upside for heroism, so that does make sense. But the Lurking TIE Phantom does drop, so that's something that you're gonna want to have that Waylay type card for as well. And so we'll see if Notlayc has another one.
Well, the big thing right now is just stalling.
Yeah.
I think the big reason that Notlayc decided to bounce the Piet was because all those resources were open for Red Husky, and I think they were hoping that they were going to play a juicier unit that they could hit with the Yoda. And all of Notlayc's plays so far have been, just trying to let Red Husky develop because honestly, none of these were really like amazing Yoda targets.
Did he just?
I assume. I was gonna say I assume the TIE Advance would be it, but I think that they might have just declined. So maybe maybe it's something like a redemption on the top, and because it wasn't getting rid of something big, he's deciding instead I want to draw that and then play it to heal because that is also a legitimate strategy.
Yeah, it's not a mandatory trigger. You can choose if you want to do it or not. And sometimes, once in a while you don't want to do it. Yoda's going to run in and take out Tarkin, though, so that's a leader out of commission for RedHuskyEverret. And that Jedi Lightsaber on Yoda is serious business, right? That turns Yoda into a 710. No, even bigger than that, 712, I think it is, right? Yoda's got 9 HP, doesn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. So he's huge.
And if he is trading with things that are on the ground, that's going to get that -2/-2.
Yeah, exactly. And, things like Waylay, that's not going to really help you. I don't know if there's really any upgrade removal in the deck of RedHuskyEverret, so I feel like this Yoda is going to be pretty tough to remove.
I was just about to say, what you need is an exhaust.
That helps.
And No Good to Me Dead was in the list.
That's going to delay things. That's going to delay things a little bit, but the question is, will it delay them enough to keep Notlayc alive here? Luke's going to come down, take out the TIE Advanced. And it is so nice, actually, on the RedHuskyEverret side to have buffed that Lurking TIE Phantom to be beyond things like Perilous Position and the -3/-3 from Luke, at least. So,
yeah,
you're safe for the moment, anyway.
You just have to stall now. So this is, whenever you hear card game players talk about tempo, this is about to be a perfect example of tempo plays, because what you're doing if you're Red Husky is not trying to fully control the board or the game of Notlayc. You're just trying to slow them down enough for you to finish them off, right?
Yeah.
So you exhaust the Yoda. Here you are cleaning up the Luke, but you could have also just found a way to exhaust him in the future while trying to push damage, and you just want to close it out. And
man, that was a big hit from looks like, let's see, what, 22? Yeah, that was a big hit from the Lurking TIE Phantom.
Well, yeah, it's swinging for 7 after the overwhelming barrage. So
yeah, well,
no,
it's
9
got raid too as
with
well.
The raid.
Yeah, so
9.
9. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a big one. And so more or less one swing from that TIE Phantom away from finishing off Notlayc and sending us to a game 3. Does our Yoda player have any way to deal with that? Look at their resources. They're like, all right, can I pull off the smuggle blaster from last game maybe? But I think it's a little bit too far away with your opponent
Perilous
only at
Position
2 damage.
Doesn't remove the unit, but it would slow it down, right? It would still do the exhausting part.
Yeah, it'd be something.
So that would have been an out. Instead, we are playing Yoda.
Yeah,
I know that the counters are still in the card, but the extra +1/+1 from the overwhelming barrage are no longer there. I'm sure Red. Yeah, I was gonna say I'm sure Red's gonna clean those up as this comes down to add another. Token.
Yep, seems that way. So it's a good amount of restore. That's 4 restore on the side of Notlayc here. But yeah, I think we're gonna clean it up. Looks like we're gonna go to game 3. That Lurking TIE Phantom just a bit too big. And here we are getting set up for game number 3 here between RedHuskyEverret, our current reigning champion of Conquer the Cave, versus Notlayc, our challenger here. And we were talking a little bit between games as we were getting things swapped over. And Charmer, you went back to that perilous position way back at the start of the game to take out the Piet, and still not a big fan of that move, and I think for very good reason.
Yeah, I can understand the reasoning behind it, and I don't fault somebody for making that play. I just think perilous position is one of the most versatile tools in Vigilance's arsenal right now, because even when you are faced with something you can't remove outright, it gives you the ability to stall, right? Most of the blue control tools we have are all or nothing. You either destroy the unit or not. You defeat the unit or not, right? Perilous position against that lurking tie would have at least bought you some additional time. Does it win him the game? Maybe, maybe not, right? But I just feel like saving it as opposed to, getting rid of like an early 1-2 Piet. You probably get more value if you hold on to it.
I think it's hard to argue with that. We'll see who ends up taking game number 3. I really have no idea how this one's going to go. I mean, Tarkin always has that opportunity, right, to buff a lot of things and come at you with a huge amount of damage, like we saw Piet first card out for RedHuskyEverret, 3rd game in a row, but that restored Arc 170 though. That restored Arc 170 on the side of Notlayc. I like that start a lot. You get some threats in the air that can handle that lurking TIE Phantom. You get some restore right off the bat. I think that's the strongest start yet for a Yoda player.
Well, that's how they started in the first game, and that led to a victory. So can't argue with that. If they drop a Yoda here and it's just, a run back of game 1, then RedHuskyEverret's going to have a bit of climbing to do. As I continue my perilous position rant, I do want to provide one caveat for the listeners at home.
Sure.
It is acceptable for you to use it early if you are expecting your on-curve play to be Razor Crest on 4. Like, that's a reason that you would just blow up a Piet because you're going to get it right back. But I don't believe I saw Razor Crest in Notlayc's list.
Not in the list, not in the sideboard, no. But yeah, I do like that a lot of Vigilance. There's that Yoda. Oh, man.
There's the Yoda.
Oh, and he attacked with Piet, too. I mean, you almost want to advocate like a pass there or something like that, or a Tarkin maybe. ISB agent, does he have the event? It doesn't look like he's showing one, so no damage out of that, it looks like.
Yeah, just trying to go wide. I agree with you. I would have liked maybe a Tarkin activation to stall.
Yeah, especially because you don't.
Oh, he is showing the event.
Oh, he is. Okay, so 1 damage on, I would imagine, the Yoda, probably?
Well, if you're showing overwhelming barrage, I kind of don't think it matters because they're both going to die soon.
Sure. But I mean, where that damage
this
goes,
does matter.
It
does
does matter, right?
Wait.
Yeah, because you're going to buff the one of your, maybe the Snow Trooper, and then that'll be able to trade with Yoda if you throw that first damage on the Yoda.
No.
Or not trade.
This restored arc is totally the play. And the reason that you put the damage there is because now if you play a Phantom and they try to restore arc into it, it's at least a trade, right?
Yeah,
Before it would have been a value trade, and that would have been ultimately really, really bad. So
that could be. We'll see what happens. Yoda swinging in for a little bit of restore. I'm going to go back down to 1 on base. And what's the plan here? I think taking out the Lieutenant was a good idea. There's a TIE advanced. All right, yeah. So going to give the buff to Piet. Once again, trying to keep that Piet alive for as long as possible.
And it's looking pretty probable here, simply because we've got the TIE advance coming down, and then next turn we have maybe an activation as well as a deploy of Tarkin. Until that restored arc made the trade there, I thought maybe there was a shot that Notlayc could set up something with coordinate, like a Plo Koon for next turn, but
yeah, it could be. Kanan Jarrus hits the board now for Yoda, and there's the Yoda activation to draw a card and then put a card potentially on the top and bottom of the deck. Gonna bottom deck that one. All right. Interesting. As we go to the next phase now, into the regroup phase after that. And so what's the answer to deal with this Kanan here? It looks like, with another couple XP, you could maybe get Piet there to where he does 5 damage, I guess. But you kind of want to keep him alive.
Well,
but that Kanan's a big threat.
We already
that needs to be dealt with.
We already know what the answer is, though. The answer is the overwhelming barrage that was revealed earlier.
Now, does he have... I see the initiative token there, but I'm not 100% sure that means he has it. I believe he does. Yeah, there's the overwhelming barrage. He's got it. Yeah, he's fine.
The last turn after Kanan was played, he grabbed the initiative, and then that's why we had the Yoda activation back-to-back off the Kanan. So,
all right. Well, that does deal with the Kanan Jarrus.
It does.
5 damage Piet. What's the play going to be here? Exhausting all 5. So maybe we're looking at a...
Still could be a Plo Koon, and you could maybe trade it even into just like the ISB.
Plo Koon is probably what we would see here, I would imagine. I think it has to be. Yeah. There's Plo Koon.
There it is.
Yep. And yeah, like I said, just going to trade it into the ISB agent here. But now we've got the Tarkin flip. All the resources spent on the Notlayc side of things. So Tarkin can flip on 5. He can buff Piet even more. Piet actually would have enough damage to trade with Plo Koon at that point, or you could just go to base. And he's going to actually just go to base now with that. Okay.
Yeah, that's...
What am I missing here?
Interesting.
Because I with your opponent out of resources, I feel like you would, flip Tarkin. I think you just straight up missed out on a damage there.
Well, I'm moderately confused because I know Notlayc wanted the initiative, likely.
Sure.
But you still had a free Yoda activation, right? You took out the ISB, so Yoda was live, and you know that they're not going to pass without deploying Tarkin. So I think that it was a safe Yoda activation. I think both players just feeling that game 3 exhaustion
maybe
that happens
a little bit.
Sometimes.
I mean, we're recording this deep into the evening on both our times too, so I know I'm feeling the exhaustion as far as keeping up with things.
What are you talking about?
Side.
I'm at my mentally, most sound at 11:07 p.m. on a Saturday night.
I'm very happy for you. It sounds great. But yeah, I mean, it's I think just a little bit of a slip there from both players. It's a small but potentially meaningful thing, right? Because that could be another damage on base. It could be a dead Plo Koon if you'd wanted to do that. There's the Obi-Wan Kenobi now protecting the Plo Koon and buffing it when the Obi-Wan dies. So this could actually be something that starts to spiral a little bit out of control if that Plo Koon lives a bit longer.
This is probably why Notlayc was so insistent on wanting the initiative, because you want to get this down in front of the units. But I still think there was a safe Yoda activation there potentially. And
okay,
the Yoda activations are important because yes, it's not the main source for this deck, but you still want to dig as deep as you can to maybe set up the combo, because there is a chance that you could start to fall behind, right? Red Husky's doing a great job this game of kind of snowballing his board position, and sometimes the combo really is your only hope, pun very intended, and you just have to do it.
Fair enough. Now, what do you think about taking out the Obi-Wan and letting the Plo Koon get that XP? I kind of like taking out the Plo Koon and then being able to trade into the Obi-Wan just to deny them any units out there. I know that's where it puts you, but
If Obi-Wan didn't have a word called Sentinel on it, I would agree with you.
Well, that's why I'm saying you use the overwhelming barrage damage to kill Plo Koon is what I'm saying. He used the overwhelming barrage damage to kill Obi-Wan. And then you trade into Obi-Wan with the Piet. You see what I'm saying? And then they have 0 units out. Yeah. Because now you've got a big old Plo Koon. That's coming in for 5 damage here. So I guess you just kind of want to... I guess the idea with RedHuskyEverret is just prioritizing, just continuing to buff this Piet, keeping him alive as long as possible, saying, all right, either you trade into me or you do damage to my base, and I'm a little bit ahead of you anyway, so I'm okay with that. I can see the appeal. And, blue has big stuff coming down soon anyway, so... Yeah.
I was just about to say, so I think just based on this exchange...
Sure.
To answer your question, I think that the reasoning behind still getting rid of the Obi-Wan at the expense of Plo Koon growing is that you don't take any damage on your Tarkin this way, because Tarkin, if you want to get your buff first, then Tarkin has to swing, and then he runs into Obi-Wan and does nothing if you leave Obi-Wan up.
Sure.
So by getting rid of Obi-Wan, what he was able to do here is he was able to swing with Tarkin and Piet at the base. And if you're just changing damage counters on both bases, that I think that favors Red Husky, right? Like you want it to be a race because your deck is, better built for that kind of a scenario.
It does for now, yeah. Seems like it's working out so far. 16 damage on base for Notlayc at the moment. But what's going to come down here? It's the 7 turn. Oh, and yep, there's a spare the target on the Piet. So that's just going to send it right back. Not even needing to be traded into. And again, this is the turn the Yoda's going to come out too. So this is going to be the turn that Notlayc is hoping he can swing things and turn it to his favor here. Because now, I mean, you look at the resources 7 for RedHuskyEverret, you don't really have the ability to play the Piet and then ambush with something that wouldn't have gotten it otherwise.
Right.
Yeah, because only 5 left, so you're not going to be ever able to play anything 6 or more, right? So this does leave RedHuskyEverret in a little bit of a tricky position. Yoda just buying his time, using the ability here. And that restore for Yoda, oh man.
Yeah.
That Plo Koon still being out, I'm telling you, it scares me. It scares me a lot.
Kind of sad that we've seen an Admiral Piet all 3 games and we still haven't seen any of the cool ambush tricks. We had Piet game 1 and then, he was defeated before the ATSTs came down. I really want to see that Piet value.
It's hard to keep him alive. All right, so he knows what's on top. There's a Yoda flip. Are we going to see? I would imagine we will see him defeat something. Yep, there's a Kanan Jarrus. And that will be enough to take out the Piet. Yep, so that is removed. 3 resources remain now for RedHuskyEverret. And, oh, okay, no good to me dead on Yoda. All right, that's going to delay things a little bit. That's going to deny some restore, so Red Husky staying in it.
Just trying to fight and claw.
Yep. Another Kanan, though, comes down. It's just what blue does, right? Towards the late game, you start to get a lot of big bodies, and those big bodies tend to heal whenever they attack, too.
They do tend to heal, and this is actually kind of a really good showcase of the vigilance kind of control package against another kind of mid-rangey deck, right? These Tarkin lists are just trying to play either the best unit they can or, the best unit plus buffs. So if it's not something that eats up all your resources, it's something that eats up all but 1 or 2 resources, and then you find a way to buff it. On the other side, it's a bunch of, single target removal, single large units with Restore, large units with Sentinel. And so this Vigilance Yoda list is just kind of getting in the way, right? You're answering, again, 1-to-1, but you're doing it pretty efficiently.
Yeah, so 12 damage yet before Red Husky can claim victory. So, maybe with a Lurking TIE Phantom and a bit of buffing like we saw last game, that damage can come in and do a lot. But we're in the Luke Skywalker zone, right? So there's a lot of negative minus stuff happening from this point on in the game. So it's not going to be easy to keep anything really on the board for the Tarkin player.
Honestly, the thing that I think you're most scared of is redemption. Because even if they don't heal off the base, it's a big Sentinel in space. And I think right now, if you're Red Husky, your path to victory is to push damage and then win with like Surprise Strike. Because we did see that in the first game.
Third overwhelming barrage of the game,
helps, right? Slows down some of that restore, and again, it will help you push the incidental damage, right? This is not quite a Surprise Strike, but as long as there's not an immediate answer from Notlayc, then you would assume this would push additional damage base. The problem is that I suspect this TIE fighter might not get a chance to attack.
Yeah, with 7 getting tapped right there, that's probably going to be a Luke Skywalker, and there he is. -6/-6 on the TIE in space, and that's going to be enough to take that out, I believe. Should be, right? Yeah, where's it going? Okay, I was going to say,
enough. I think
I was like, where's it going?
Confirmation.
Yep.
Are you getting this? Are you going to target Tarkin? Maybe there's some hope, but
I'm impatient, Yeah, I think that may be sort of the final nail in the coffin then for RedHuskyEverret. We'll see. Surprise Strike, though, for Tarkin. just putting every ounce of damage he possibly can into the base right now. That's going to be another 5, so we're going to go up to 23 on base, I believe it is.
It's so interesting. It's almost like I said, hey, I think this is Red Husky's plan. I think this is their path to victory, and they were, of course, sitting on the surprise strike.
Yeah. Didn't really have much of a choice otherwise, but that would have been what?
Well, so this is going to sound weird. This is going to sound weird. There was potentially a different course of action. If you, instead of playing the barrage, if you just swing with Tarkin and hope that Kanan doesn't heal a lot, you could barrage and not kill a unit. You could have barraged and just put a bunch of damage on Yoda, but not have something die, so that Luke wouldn't have killed the TIE clean, right? If you attack with Tarkin first, it gets an extra +1.
Yeah, fair enough.
And then the barrage puts it over, and then surprise strike. As weird as it sounds, it's almost never correct to not kill something with barrage, but if you're specifically worried about Luke, there is an argument to be made where you're just like, no, put it all on Yoda.
Yeah, it's all kind of like that fuzzy math where it's like, well, does Kanan heal for 1 or 2? You know, does Luke come out and give my thing -3? You know, how much am I net positive or negative with this versus the other play? And, you know, it's kind of hard to figure out all those permutations sometimes. We do have both players sitting at 23 damage on base. And there's the pirate tank. The pirate battle tank, I think it's called. Yeah, it's got Sentinel. That's the one you can smuggle out. Has Sentinel as well. Yeah, pirate battle tank is the name of that one, which I loved in Limited in set 2, by the way. That card was so good in Limited, but fun to see it here too. Oh, and there's the Emphas Nest, and that is just going to bounce that tank right back to hand. And that's going to do it. That's going to be pretty much the game. Yeah. No way to block the incoming damage. There's a fist bump, and that's going to be the series, and it's going to be Notlayc taking it 2-1 over RedHuskyEverret. The cave has been swapped yet again. Notlayc, our current reigning champion now, and just putting that Yoda to good use. And you know, the Tarkin Cunning, it feels like the damage just came a little bit too slow to, you know, have a good consistent chance against that Yoda. What do you think?
I think that you're correct. We saw Admiral Piet as the turn 1 play all 3 games, and I'm a huge fan of Admiral Piet. It's just not where you want to be on turn 1. Even if you can follow it up with something like a lieutenant, it's kind of like a temporary buff. It's not what you want to be doing long term if you're looking to snowball. I think that, you know, would things have been different if it was, you know, a TIE fighter opener so that you at least get something snowballing in space? Yeah, probably. But unfortunately, you can't pick your draws, and them's the breaks.
Yep. Pretty much. It's one of those things where it's a little bit of an uphill battle for the Tarkin, but it was neat to see the deck come back. I think it is a list where it's like, if you want to go and have a good time at your local, and it's good enough to win a local, I would say, you know, in the right pilot's hands, it is a fun deck to go out and play. So feel free to give that a try. Same with the Yoda too. I mean, neither of these lists are really like top meta lists, right? But they are good lists, and I think lists where if you really like that character, if you really like that style of play, there's nothing wrong with just jamming that and getting good at it if you want to. Well, that's going to do it for us here on Conquer the Cave. Thanks for watching, everybody. Join our Discord. Again, always lots of great conversation going about lists on there. Hopefully get a lot more gameplay going on it over the course of the year. And like, subscribe, all that good stuff helps us out. And thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.